everybody. Oh, I'm so excited to be here today. This is crazy. I feel like I'm talking to myself a little bit. So, I'm Julius, and I'm a life coach for leaders. And I'm just going to dive in right away for you today and tell you a little bit about myself. And then also tell you a lot about my stance on how, when you're a leader, you're a role model and you better take it seriously. I'm also going to lead you through kind of an activity so you can start to identify what you feel are some of the really important qualities in being a leader, and then check yourself on if you're being those qualities or not. So I hope that sounds good. Absolutely open if you're live on the broadcast for questions as I'm going along, so feel free to throw those at me as well. But I'll start off by sharing a little bit about myself and my background. What story should I tell today? Well, you can find out more about me, first of all, at jenjulius.com. That's JenJulius.com. There's a ton of free information and content on there as well, from written blogs to video blogs to radio interviews I've done with tons of health and wellness and also small business experts from all over, mainly from California, but also some from New York and all over the place. So a lot of great free information that you can access and really learn some great tools from. But what brought me into coaching is a little bit of a neat story, and it's actually pertinent to what we're going to be talking about today. So I will share some of my background with you because I believe it's absolutely relative. So to kind of start off, how much do I want to share? I think I'll tell you this story. I grew up in a very small town in Northern California where, let's just say, it was not your average culture. Let's just say that. And I was also raised in a family where there was kind of a lot of addiction all over the place. And by the time I was 16, and I had gone through a lot of hardship, a lot of challenges already in my young years, just from conflict that I'd endured being bullied in school, from some of the conflict that I was kind of enduring at home, I developed my own pretty severe eating disorder and addiction. And by the time I was 20, it had gotten pretty intense. And I realized that I needed to actually get my act together and step my game up and really take life a little bit more seriously and shift how I was showing up, because I knew that I wanted to make an impact. And if I didn't start switching what I was doing, that wasn't going to happen. So I ended up moving back up to Sonoma County in California and started going to Sonoma State. I was already going to the JC and realized that I could channel a lot of that intense energy that I had inside of me for something positive. And I ended up finishing my master's at 24. So that was intense, let's just say that. And during that time, I started working in the nonprofit sector, and I started working mainly with youth on probation and in the social service sector. And I also obtained my school counseling credential. And what happened was I started to notice some patterns that a lot of my youth that were being sent back to juvenile hall or just being sent back into the system over and over again were often repeating the behaviors that they'd been taught over and over again from their parents or from the important role models in their life. And I really started to think about that and go, wow, these kids are getting in so much trouble and having such a hard time because they're replicating what their role models are showing them. And after several years in the nonprofit sector, I started to get tired. And I realized that I really wanted to make a shift from the top down. And I wanted to help adults, specifically parents, understand that what you're role modeling, your children are seeing, and they are probably then going to do. And over the last few years, as I developed a business, what started to naturally happen is I started to work with business owners and high-profile community leaders and help them see, hey, check it out. The impact that you're making on a daily basis is directly impacting tons of other people, such as your staff and all their staff's families and the people who they're touching as well, right? So I really started to develop this stance that when you're a leader, you're a role model, and you better take it seriously because you're making an impact regardless of whether you realize it or not, right? And do you want that impact to be good or bad? And is it naturally being good or bad, right? And how can you take that impact that you're making and make it better, make it bigger, right? So that's really the stance that I take now today, is when you're a leader, you're a role model, and you better step your game up and take it seriously. And in some capacity, all of us are role models, right? You might be a parent that's a role model to your children. You might be a business leader that's a role model to your staff. Or maybe you're a older sibling, or maybe you're just an older student at school. So we really have these different capacities to be role models, right? What my intention for today is to give you some tools to start identifying what type of role model you really want to be, what qualities you identify as being important in a leader, and how you can be more of those so you can step up your game in being able to be the best leader that you can be. I hope that sounds good. All right, so let's dive in to a little bit of content. How does that sound? And like I said, feel free if you're live to ask any questions that come up as well. Hopefully I'm making lots of sense. But I want to start off by just talking about you. Really having you take a moment to think about what big impact you want to make. If you're watching this, whether it's live or whether it's the recording, you're probably watching it because the concept of being a leader means your role model struck you, right? And you know that when you're a leader, you're a role model, and you want to take that seriously, and you want to make the best impact that you can. So hopefully you have some paper and pen. You can grab those. And I want you to go ahead and jot down, what impact do you really want to make? What are you going to school for if you're going to school? Or what job are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to make a big impact in the career world? Or are you trying to make a big impact in your personal life? Maybe for your family, for your community maybe. Take a moment and really think about what big impact are you trying to make or wanting to make? And I'd also love to hear from anyone that's live too. What impact do you want to make? Why are you doing what you're doing? So I'll give you a moment to jot that down. I'm going to be drinking coffee while we're doing this as well. Hope you're all right with that. I know it's noon and I'm drinking coffee still. Watch out, world. So what big impact do you want to make? Why? Why does it matter? Sometimes the big impact we want to make directly comes from where we come from, right? Something to do with our past, something that we potentially overcame. I'm a really big believer on the concept of resilience, how we absolutely have the ability to turn our struggles into strengths, all right? So oftentimes things that we've overcome, we can then harness and channel into something amazingly positive and amazingly transformative for other people. We can help other people move through, and I call heal and deal with things that they potentially have gone through or are going through, right? So what big impact do you want to make? Perfect. And feel free to expand on these afterwards as well. All right. So now I really want you to think about, what are 3 qualities that you find critical in being a leader? Think about that. What are 3 qualities you find to be critical in being a leader? What would make a good leader for you? What do you identify as some of the qualities that make a great leader? I just did a presentation about this at a college up here in Sonoma County at Sonoma State. And it was amazing to see the students and all the different qualities they came up with. I'll share some of them with you because I really thought they were amazing. But I want you to first, I'm going to give you a few seconds to jot down some qualities that you think are really important in being a great leader. And this is up to you. So don't go to that space of generic, well, I think these are the qualities that make a good leader because I read about it one time. I want this to be authentic to you. All right. It might have a lot to do with your core values as well, which is also something to explore if you haven't. What are your core values? Where do you operate from? Right? What's really important to you? Once you've identified your core values, it'll also be easier to make certain business decisions. It'll also be easier to understand why certain people you just don't vibe with and other ones why you perhaps do. All right. So identifying these core values can be really, really transformative in being able to, in my opinion, develop your business further, develop your character further, and really understand yourself on a much deeper level. Because the more you understand how you operate, the more you can make conscious choices around what you do and don't want and what you will and will not allow. Right? Because now a whole different topic could be, what are you allowing in your space? What type of energy, what type of people? And being more conscious of what you're allowing to come into your realm, to your energetic world, right? And often knowing our core values can really assist us in setting potentially better boundaries with that. So go ahead and jot down those qualities, 3 critical qualities that you identify in a leader. What a fun topic. And I'll share with you what some of the students from Sonoma State had come up with, because I was just so amazed by the diversity. But I'll tell you what was interesting. The number one, well, the most popular quality, even though only 5 people said it, was humble. So one of the most critical qualities they identified in a leader was humble, right? Wow. And then after that, some of the other ideas were caring, determined, honest, open-minded, responsible, supportive, dedicated, engaged, focused, being a good listener, respectful, compassionate, confident, courageous, diligent, giving, hardworking, kind, having good people skills, reflective, relatable, reliable, self-aware, smart, strong, team-oriented, trustworthy, understanding, and being willing, having willingness. So what are some of the qualities that you would identify? And I'd love too, if you want to throw them out as we're going live on this webinar, throw out what are a couple of the qualities that you feel are really important in being a leader. I'd love to hear from you right now and chat about that a little bit. Because the more that we can identify these qualities, the more we can, well, the more easily you'll be able to do the next part of the exercise, actually. I think it's important to note, as you're identifying these qualities, also start thinking about, do you know people that have these qualities in the leadership roles that they're in? Are they really demonstrating those? I really want you to consider that. Think of a role model that you have, of a leader that you really respect. What qualities are they demonstrating on a daily basis that you really admire? That might help you in deciding what some of your qualities are as well. So I see we have a couple viewers. Anyone want to pop in with some of their qualities they identify as being important in being a leader? You're on the spot. I'll talk about my 3. The 3, well, and it really comes back to my 3 core values that I operate from, which are integrity, respect, and authenticity. Those are the values that I'm constantly checking myself on, and then also noticing if other people are showing up with, because it helps me to understand if we're going to vibe well, which will then also tell me if we're going to be able to collaborate in a business sense, if we're going to potentially be good friends or not. Because what you'll notice is that some of the people you're closest to in your life, you probably share at least 1 or 2 core values with. That's my opinion. It's my belief. Especially if you're in partnership with someone, whether it's business or intimate. Core values and having similar core values is quite important, in my opinion, to being able to really collaborate and connect well. All right. Okay, so we'll move along, because here's the next question. You've identified these qualities. Now here's the tricky part. You ready? Are you currently role modeling those qualities? Are you currently being those qualities? I want you to think of some examples of how you do or don't role model those, how you are or aren't being them. Okay? So take some time and think about that. Are you being the qualities that you think are important in role models and leaders? Think about that. Jot down an example of how you are or aren't those qualities, right? Sometimes it's hard to hold ourselves accountable, right? Sometimes it's hard to really say, yeah, maybe I'm not being those qualities so much. Maybe I need to work on that. But I want you to be really honest with yourself. I want you to get a lot out of this. I mean, whenever I teach, I want you to get some tools. I want you to walk away with something that you've learned. What do you really want to walk away with? What do you really want to learn today? This is your chance to be accountable, to really notice, am I being these qualities or not? Right? I'm going to pull up something while you're working on that. All right. See if I can give you some examples. All right. Are you being those qualities or not? I'd also love to hear any questions or feedback that you have if you're live on this Hangout right now. Hopefully I'm making sense too. We started off with identifying what big impact do you want to make? What are the qualities that you find to be critical in being a good leader? And then are you being them? Are you currently being them or not? And if you're not, okay, that's fine, right? We can shift that. But first we have to bring some conscious awareness to it, right? First you have to know, oh, hey, I'm not really being these qualities. Maybe I should shift that. Awesome. So as you've taken some of this content and information and you've identified the big impact that you want to make, the qualities that you really find important, how you are or are not being them, I want you to just start to identify what shift can you make? And do you want to? Are you ready to? Because if you're feeling the call to make a big impact, would being more of these qualities that you find important be helpful in doing so? Probably, right? But we also have to be willing to commit to that, to commit to stepping our game up, to commit to letting ourselves transform into this almost higher way of being, of really allowing ourselves to step into this ability to be a bigger, better role model and a bigger, better leader, right? I'm pushing you. I'm pushing you. I'm big on accountability. I like people to really take a look, an honest, raw look at themselves and say, hey, what am I doing? Do I like it or not? Because we can shift, we can change anytime we choose to. It might take work, it might take some serious accountability and responsibility, but we can do it, right? And as you've identified this, I really want you to take some time to really think about how you'll commit. How will you commit to stepping further into the qualities that you identified? If it was humbleness, if it was being honest, are you being honest is a big one, right? Are you being honest? If you think that's important in being a good leader, are you being honest all the time? When is it okay not to be honest if you think that that's an option, right? When do you think that it's not always important to be 100% honest? Or do you think that? See, these are things that to start creating more awareness around how you operate and what you believe, you'll be able to then tap in much more quickly to your decision-making process. You'll be able to choose your path more quickly, be able to choose who you do and do not want to affiliate with more quickly, be able to understand why you do and don't want to maybe be around certain people or certain situations, or why certain companies don't really resonate with you. A lot of what I'm talking about is really tapping into your gut and your intuition, right? Really just knowing yourself and knowing what's best for you and your highest good. I know many of the people probably watching are absolutely in tune with that and have really developed their intuition. And intuition is like a muscle, right? The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So I really want to encourage you that one of the biggest takeaways I want you to have today is to tap into yourself, right? Because we all have a different individual truth. And it's when we can identify that truth that we can start to do amazing things. And often when we're off our path, off our purpose, we're not honoring our individual truth, is when we develop some of our potential more serious issues. Like I shared with you earlier, struggling with a pretty severe addiction and eating disorder, I was pretty off my path. I was lost. I wasn't tuned into myself. I really wasn't tapped into what was best for me, what I really wanted, how to fulfill my own needs from a really true, authentic, healthy way, right? And I'm going to talk about that point actually real quick while I bring it up, because if we look at the concept of being a leader from the parent standpoint, let's say that you're a parent and you had a really hard day at work and you come home and you're all frustrated and you're angry and you're grumpy and your kids are watching you and you're just like, hey kids, you know, whatever, blow them off, and you go straight to the kitchen, you pour a glass of wine, and that's how your kids see you dealing with stress. Now, what I'm not saying is that anything against drinking a glass of wine. Fine, do that, right? We're in Northern California, wine's everywhere, right? And if that's really something that serves you, okay. But when it's being utilized as your primary coping mechanism, that's where we might have an issue. Especially if that's what your children are watching as, oh, how does mommy cope with stress when she comes home? If that's the go-to thing, that's where we might have a concern. You see that? But if mommy comes home, had a bad day, needs to sit down, take some deep breaths, maybe you're like rocks and crystals, and so you play with your rocks and crystals. I love rocks and crystals. That's why I give that as an example. And just really lets yourself calm down, get centered, role model some healthy coping skills and behaviors. That's what the kids are saying too. See where I'm going with that? So what are you role modeling, right? What do you want your children to be seeing? I want you to think about that. Oh, hey, I just figured out how to push a button. And now I can see some questions. Sorry about that. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to backpedal a little bit because thank you so much for sharing some of your thoughts. Someone shared their 3 qualities that they find really important: integrity, honesty, and reliability. Big, right? Integrity, honesty, and reliability. My question would be, are you showing up with those qualities yourself, right? Are you showing up with integrity? And also, here's a whole nother piece. What does integrity mean to you? What does honesty mean to you? What does reliability mean to you, right? Because what I've noticed is that oftentimes people have different explanations for themselves of what something really means. So for me, integrity really means walking your talk, right? I mentioned that my 3 core values are integrity, respect, and authenticity. One of my core values used to be honesty until I realized integrity was more what I meant, and that I actually am not honest 100% of the time. To be honest with you, I'm not. And I give the example of when my grandma was with us. She passed last year. She would sometimes ask like, "Oh, do you like my shirt? Do you like my outfit?" And I knew she loved it, and I knew it made her happy. So I'd say, "Absolutely, yes, Grandma. Yeah, it's beautiful." Because that was the choice I made to help her feel beautiful and wonderful and loved, right? Honesty was not number 1 for me at that point at all. So I really want you to think about, what do these qualities mean to you? And are you being them? Reliability, what a fun one, right? Being reliable. See, for me, that kind of goes together with integrity a little bit too, but in the sense of reliability, I'm curious, what does that mean? Does that mean showing up when you say you're going to? Does that mean doing what you say you're going to do, but also knowing that people can count on you, right? What does that mean for you? I'd really love for you to explore that a little bit. So coming now back down to, sorry, this is also how I work. I'll go all over the place and then I'll bring it back down. So I really want you to think about, what are the 3 critical qualities in a leader? Are you being them or not? And then also, how will you commit to stepping further into those qualities, right? As you become a better role model, a bigger, better, bolder role model, how will you step further into those qualities? I'll go back and give a few more examples as well. Feel free to pop in on the conversation and ask some more questions. But as I was talking about, when a parent comes home and they're role modeling how they manage the stress from their day, the children are watching that, right? Same thing with how you manage anger. I don't know if you've ever known someone that punches things maybe when they get angry. If a parent punches something as a way to manage their anger in front of their child, what do you think their child's going to see? Right? And I want you to think about that too, because what I'm not saying is, I'm not saying, hey, let's blame parents for everything. Absolutely not. No way. Because we're living in a crazy world where we have all kinds of things pulling at us every which way and direction, and it's nuts. What I want to really put out there is just to start raising your awareness and noticing, hey, am I okay with this behavior, with this choice that I make, potentially on a daily or weekly basis? And if I'm not, how can I shift it? Because what I will say is, the nice thing about the day and age we're living in is there is an abundance of resources and information out there that you can access pretty darn easily. And I would highly encourage you to allow yourself to get some support. Look up some resources. Google it, right? YouTube it. Look up different coping skills and see what resonates with you. Find maybe a coach or a leader that you really respect and Google them and see if they have maybe some content around stress management, self-care, whatever, right? There is support out there and there are tools out there. And that's really what I want to emphasize is we can shift and we can change if we choose to, but we cannot make a different choice if we don't have any other information, right? I'm going to go off on a tangent again real quick because it'll make sense. It'll come back. I get really frustrated when I see people putting a lot of blame out there saying, oh man, they're just doing, they're doing this and that and blah, blah, blah. And they just write them off. Maybe they see a kid that's getting into a bunch of trouble and they're just like, blah, 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 blah. Oftentimes, a child or any person for that matter is replicating or doing what they know. And if they don't know any different, they cannot do any different. All right. I really want to drive that home because what we don't have the right to do is sit here and point fingers and place blame on people. All right. Around the choices that they're making. How can I say that a different way? This is an interesting example. When I was working in juvenile probation, I saw sometimes people just getting frustrated and shaking their heads at youth who had a lot of gang involvement. And just saying, oh, that's so dumb, da da da, and just writing them off. What they didn't realize is that sometimes those kids were coming from families that had been involved in that culture for decades. And the child simply doesn't know any different, right? That's the thing, is if we don't know different, we can't do different. We can't choose different. And that's where I hope if you're watching this, that you're one of the people that wants to just help bring up the awareness level and educate more people, right? Give people more options to choose differently. That's the key. When you're a leader, you're a role model, right? That's absolutely true. But also, what are you offering the world? What are you offering them around raising their awareness, their ability to choose differently? Do you see this? I hope you see where I'm going with this, because this is one of the biggest points I want to make is if you are in a leadership role, you have the ability to make an incredible impact, even if it is on one person. But guess what? That one person might be able to influence 1,000 others. You don't know. Especially if you're working with business owners, community leaders, people in positions where they're managing others. The trickle-down effect is profound, right? One of my clients runs a business where she has 30 staff. So the way she shows up on a daily basis not only affects those 30 staff, but those 30 staff's partners and children, right? And then maybe those children go to school and either bully other kids or not. Maybe they're really sweet and supportive. Which would you want? But the reality is the trickle-down effect by how we affect people is profound, because if boss is a big jerk, let's just be real about it, and it makes the staff kind of on edge and angry and frustrated, and the staff go home and then they're grumpy and angry and it's affecting their families, and then their families are thrown off. The trickle-down effect is profound. And that's really what I want you to see. All right? So coming back to what we talked about, don't mind me as I keep looking at my little clipboard. What big impact do you want to make? What qualities do you identify as being important in a leader? And then are you being those? Are you currently role modeling them or not? And then how will you commit to stepping further into those qualities? I'm going to check over in our questions. Oh, thank you for your feedback. We've got someone mentioning that not always living up to those qualities. And you know what? The fact that you can recognize that, critical, super important, because we can't shift something that we don't know about, right? You can't change something that you don't know you're doing. All right. So hopefully you're all caught up with that writing, because the next piece is I really want you to, I'm not sure if you've heard about affirmations. I'm sure you have. But I'll give you kind of the energetic and the scientific standpoint on affirmations from my opinion. Affirmations are really beautiful because they kind of energetically, if you're into the law of attraction, can help put you in a space where you attract things that match that affirmation, right? But then from a scientific standpoint, what also happens is we create these neural pathways in our brain, right? And the more that we think a thought or have a belief, the deeper those crevices, I call them, those neural pathways become. When we create an affirmation, we're creating a new neural pathway, and we have the ability to make it much deeper, okay? If we choose to, we can make that new affirmation so much stronger that it can almost override the old one, okay? So what I'd love for you to do today is to make an affirmation out of the 3 qualities that we just identified. So maybe yours, like the example we have, were integrity, honesty, and reliability, right? So I would love for you to make an affirmation in this format. So it's I am blank, blank, and blank leader, or I am and blank, blank, and blank leader. So I am an honest, reliable, how would I put integrity in there? This is a good one. I am an honest, reliable leader with great integrity. That's how you could squeeze that one in, I think. I am an honest and reliable leader with great integrity. But maybe yours are, let's look at some other ones. Humble, caring, and determined. I am a humble, caring, and determined leader. Beautiful, right? And then you can make that affirmation and you can put it on your wall. You can have it as a note on your phone that you can read throughout the day. You can put it on a post-it on your computer, whatever works for you. But use it as a tool to start stepping further into these qualities. One of my affirmations from many, many moons ago, gosh, like 8 years, was I am strong, passionate, and balanced. And although it was not around leadership, it was just around the essence that I wanted to carry more of for myself, being strong in who I am, being passionate about the things that I really care about, and leading a balanced lifestyle, which is funny as that's such a big thing I coach on now, right? Is as we're doing all these things, all the things, right? As we're doing all these things in our lives, running businesses, being parents, being making an impact in our community, how are we taking care of ourselves? Because that's really what it comes down to. How are we showing up for ourselves? Because the way that we take care of ourselves will also be what directly impacts the people that we're affecting. Our energy makes an impact. And if you're with CIIS, I know that you know what I'm talking about. Our energy makes an impact. The way that we show up energetically is affecting the people around us, right? Some of us that are very energetically sensitive can tell when someone's energy is maybe off. Like, oh, hey, are you okay? Something just feels a little off today, especially if you're close to them, right? So I want you to think about that. How are you taking care of yourself so you can be the best leader that you can be? What are the qualities that you identify as being critical in being a good leader? And are you being those? Because the change starts with us. We can't just say, oh, everybody else needs to go do this and that and, act like this. No. All right. Sure, you can say, wow, I wouldn't do that. That wouldn't be my choice. But it comes back to how are we showing up? What choices are we making? What impact are we contributing to the world? Gandhi says, be the change, right? It's true. It's true. Too often, sometimes we fall into that pit of pointing the finger somewhere else when really you need to come back here for a little bit. More questions. What's coming up? Thoughts, feedback. So crazy. I'm just like talking to myself, hoping I make sense. I'll make sure to review too, but I hope this is resonating for those of you that have watched thus far, because I really want to make sure that you can take something away from this, that you can take a tool away that you can implement. This is really your chance to take a step forward, in your leadership, in your abilities to make an impact, to make some big shifts, to realign with a new truth that you've identified for yourself. And start thinking about, what is your individual truth? What is your individual truth? What really matters to you? What do you stand for? What are your values? And are you in alignment with them? So I think you may have noticed as I talk about values, I'm also talking about qualities potentially, right? So the qualities I would find important in a leader are also my core values pretty much, right? Having integrity, right? Being respectful, huge one for me. And being authentic, right? What I've noticed too, as being a coach and working with mostly leaders, what I've noticed is that all of my clients share at least one of my core values, if not more. Why do you think that is? Because they wouldn't vibe with me if we didn't share similar values, right? We wouldn't be an energetic match. That's something else to consider. We're not really meant to get along and work with and be with everybody all the time, right? So I want you to really think about that. How are you showing up? How do you want to show up? Who are your people? And are you okay with that? What impact do you want to make? What qualities are important to you? And that last piece that I said is you've gone through the activity, making that affirmation can start to transform your life, right? Allow you to start making those big shifts also in your brain. So you really know that you're shifting and becoming more of those qualities. And then also just watching yourself. How are you showing up in the workplace, at home, with your family, with your friends, with the people that you're leading? How are you showing up? Are you showing up with those qualities? And if not, how can you step further into that? By tracking these things, collecting some data, raising your awareness around it, you can absolutely do that. Because it all comes back to exactly what we started off on. When you're a leader, you're a role model, and you better take it seriously, right? Being a leader is a privilege, and it comes with great responsibility. If you have the power to impact and influence other men and women, you better take it seriously. I'm a big, big believer in that. Gosh, so I'm feeling like I've thrown a lot at you today already. And only in 40 minutes. Oh boy, I went quick. So if you're live and you have any questions, I'd feel free, throw them out there at me. I'd love to answer them. I might wrap us up. I think I made the point that I wanted to make today. Hopefully I drove it home. I think the other big thing that I really want to just throw out there is we have the ability to choose differently, but it might be hard. It might be hard because if you've done something for 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, of course it's going to be hard to shift. But you can. You can. And it comes down to making a conscious choice. All right? And if you're a leader and you want to make a great impact, this is something where if you're choosing this big role in the world, take it seriously. Be gentle with yourself. Know that, of course, you're not going to get everything right. You're not going to be perfect. That's not what we're striving for. We're not striving for perfection, right? I like to encourage my people to just be real, be raw, be authentic. Know that we're humans. We're going to make mistakes. Trust me, I make them a lot. I make lots and lots and lots of mistakes. Maybe too much. Nah, not too much. Just a lot. That's how we learn, right? And so if you've noticed, wow, I have not been being these qualities, or wow, I'm doing some of the things that Jen kind of pointed out, some of those not so awesome examples, it's okay. Because if you didn't know any different, if this wasn't in your awareness, then how could you do anything differently? All right? I'm not here to point and blah, 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 give you a hard time. What I want to say is as you raise your awareness and you start to choose the impact you want to make, who you want to be, how you want to show up, that's where you can also gain the tools, gain the skills, and you can shift the areas that you want to choose to shift. And my hope is that if you are in a leadership role, you take it seriously and you understand that the impact you're making, remember that top down, is profound. So please know that being a leader comes with responsibility, but you also have the choice to shift the areas that you want to shift. All right? Thank you for some of the feedback I'm getting right now. Yeah, watching how you want to show up in the world, it's big, right? But also know that one of the most beautiful parts about being human is allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. Brene Brown, oh my gosh, Google her name. She has amazing resources on vulnerability and the profound effect that makes on connection, right? As we allow ourselves to show up authentically and we understand the impact that we're making constantly on the people around us, even if it's just energetically by the way that we're being. As we raise our awareness around that, we can take it more seriously, we can shift it, and we can become the leaders that we really truly want to be. Beautiful. So I'll do one final review and then I will sign off for you. But the whole theme of today has been on when you're a leader, you're a role model. And then I led you through some questions, some ideas to really contemplate what big impact do you want to make? Think about it. And then what qualities do you identify as being critical in being a leader? And the tricky part, are you being those qualities or not? Will you commit to stepping further into those qualities? Are you ready to step your game up? Do you want to? And then creating that customized affirmation with those qualities. The example we gave was, I am a humble, caring, and determined leader. Putting your 3 words in there, maybe putting it on a paper or post-it and keeping it visible. Bringing that into your awareness a little bit more so you can shift, so you can step further into that and step your game up a little bit as a leader. I sure hope this made sense, and I sure hope you were able to gain some tools from it. Thank you so much for allowing me to serve you. For more information about me, you can go to jenjulius.com. That's JenJulius.com. Also on Facebook, facebook.com/JenJuliusCoaching. I also have some videos on YouTube and old radio interviews, mostly around health and wellness and small business expertise. I am so honored to share with you, and just thank you so much for caring about the impact you're making. How you as a leader are impacting people regardless of whether you're aware of it. You are impacting them. So why not bring your awareness a little bit higher and allow yourself to shift the things that you'd like to shift? Feel free to reach out to me. You can contact me on my website. Love to answer any questions that you might have around what came up for you today from this webinar. Also, if you want to maybe share with me, I'd love to hear what the qualities you identified were. I think it's amazing to hear of the different qualities that people identify as being important in being a leader. And then also, if you took that step and really identified if you're being those qualities or not, love to hear your input. So thank you so much for letting me share this time and space with you. Like I said, jenjulius.com. You can contact me. Let me know what qualities were important. I'd love to hear from you. You can also find a ton more content and information there. And thank you so much for allowing me to serve you. It's really been a pleasure. I hope to hear from you. I hope to hear what insights you got. Thank you so much. Take care.